I dream big but do nothing. Wow, that phrase just hits you right in the gut, doesn't it? Because for so many of us, it feels painfully, deeply true. You've got the vision, you've got the ambition, but something, somehow, always stops you from taking that first crucial step. So what is really going on here?
I mean, come on, be honest. You've been there, right? That brilliant business idea, that creative project you were so passionate about, that big life change you mapped out perfectly. You were excited, you were totally motivated, and then crickets. The plan just sits there gathering digital dust.
And here's the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire explainer. If your first thought is to blame yourself, to think, I'm just lazy or I have no willpower, I need you to just stop. Right there. This isn't a moral failing. Cognitive science is super clear on this. It's a predictable neurological cycle that's happening inside your brain.
Okay, so to really get why we get so stuck, we need to break down that cycle. Let's dive into what we'll call Part 1, the dreamer's dilemma. Now, this one idea, this changes everything. After literally decades of research, scientists have figured out that procrastination has almost nothing to do with time management. It's not about your calendar, it's not about your to-do list app. At its very core, it's an emotion regulation problem. It's all about how you deal with uncomfortable feelings.
So, if it's all about feelings, how does it actually work inside our heads? Well, it all comes down to a sneaky little thing called your brain's avoidance loop.
This right here, this is the 4-step trap that keeps us stuck. So, step 1. A hard task triggers some kind of negative feeling. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's self-doubt, maybe it's just pure boredom. Step 2, your brain, which hates feeling bad, immediately looks for an escape. You avoid the task. You check your phone, you tidy your desk, whatever. And step 3, you feel instant short-term relief. And here's the most crucial part. Step 4, that feeling of relief acts as a reward, literally training your brain that avoidance is a good strategy. It becomes a habit.
You can actually picture it like a battle happening inside your skull. On one side, you've got your amygdala. That's your brain's primitive alarm system. It sees that difficult task, mistakes it for a threat, and just starts screaming, "Danger! Avoid this!" Then on the other side, you've got your brain's action system trying to push you to, actually do the thing.
And when you procrastinate, it means the amygdala won. There's even a name for it, an amygdala hijack. Your emotional, threat-detecting brain literally hijacks the controls from your rational, action-oriented brain, and you run for the hills.
And here's the real kicker. This isn't just a one-off thing. Every single time you go through this loop, you are physically strengthening the neural pathway for procrastination in your brain. It gets stronger, faster, more automatic. And at the same time, that discipline circuit, the part of your brain that pushes you to act, it weakens, just like an unused muscle.
Okay, wow, that all sounds pretty bleak, I know. But here is the really good news. If you can train your brain to procrastinate, you can absolutely train it to do the opposite. So let's get into Part 3, the surprisingly simple fix. Believe it or not, after 20 years of research on this, the answer turns out to be almost, embarrassingly simple. Just start. That's it. The goal isn't to finish the task. It's not to do it perfectly or even do it well. The only goal is to begin.
So how do we actually do that? Here is a super practical 2-step method you can use to break that loop. First, you gotta catch and name it. The second you notice yourself avoiding something, just pause and identify the specific emotion. Say it out loud. Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. Or I'm afraid this won't be good enough. Just naming the feeling helps you switch from your emotional brain back to your rational one. And then, step 2. Make it stupidly small. Define the absolute tiniest, least intimidating first step you can possibly take.
And when I say stupidly small, I really mean it. The goal, write a whole essay, that's huge, it's scary. Of course your brain's alarm system goes off. But open the document and write for just 10 minutes, your brain can handle that. Do an hour workout feels like this giant commitment. But put on your shoes and just step outside, your brain's alarm system barely even notices. It's not a threat.
And the science totally backs this up. In one famous study, researchers tracked students who were procrastinating on a big project. You know what they found? Once the deadline finally forced them to start, not a single one of them, not one, was glad they'd waited. The feedback was universal. The task itself wasn't nearly as bad as the dread they felt just thinking about it.
But hang on. What if you're not just lounging on the couch? What if you feel like you're busy all the time, but your biggest goals are still going nowhere? Well, this brings us to a really critical idea, procrastination in disguise.
See, your brain is smart. It's sneaky.
It knows that doing absolutely nothing will trigger another awful feeling, guilt. So to avoid the scary, important task and avoid the guilt, it comes up with a brilliant disguise for avoidance. It calls it productivity. And there are two main disguises you really got to watch out for. The first is perfectionism. That's where the fear that your work won't be good enough is so paralyzing that you just never start. But the second one, and maybe the sneakiest of all, is productive procrastination. This is when you swap that hard, scary, important task for an easy, safe one that still makes you feel accomplished.
And this table just lays it out so perfectly. Does any of this sound familiar? The real task is to write your essay, but instead you spend an hour color-coding your notes. You need to be applying for jobs, but instead you spend 3 hours tweaking your resume for the 5th time. You want to start your business, so you decide to read 10 more books about business first. You feel like you're working, you feel productive, but the one task that actually moves the needle, it hasn't budged an inch.
All of this, everything we've talked about, it brings us to the most powerful, the most important takeaway of this whole thing. Let's call it the feeling versus reality. I want you to let this one really sink in. You are not actually avoiding the work. You are avoiding a future negative feeling that you have imagined in your own mind. You're avoiding the idea of being overwhelmed or the thought of failing. And as all the research shows, that imagined feeling, it's almost always wrong. The reality of doing the work is almost never as bad as the dread of starting it.
So I'll leave you with this question. What's the feeling you're trying to avoid today? Is it overwhelm? Is it fear? And more importantly, what is the one stupidly small, ridiculously easy first step you can take right now to break that cycle and prove your brain wrong?